let's look at two pivotal moments in the history of Fresno, California. First, on September 1st, 1964, the city leaders of Fresno, California broke ground on a new pedestrian mall along Fulton Street, one of the city's main thoroughfares. The second is March 3rd, 2016, when city leaders broke ground on the removal of that pedestrian mall.
We are standing at the very same location as the groundbreaking for the installation of the Fulton Mall 52 years ago this month in March.
In both cases, city leaders were hoping a redesign of Fulton Street would revitalize downtown Fresno, and they were confident that this investment, this project, would do the trick. The story of how Fresno went from one groundbreaking to the other is an excellent lesson for all who hope to make a change in their community, and how it's impossible to know for certain how the best laid plans will turn out.
Let's start at the beginning. Why had city leaders decided to pin its revitalization hopes on converting its main street into a pedestrian mall?
Well, in the 1950s and 1960s, Fresno's downtown, like downtowns across the United States, were struggling. The urban landscape was changing. Young GIs home from the war were getting married and looking to purchase one of the newly built homes in the suburban communities springing up around central cities. The widespread adoption of the car made it easy to commute between suburban home and work. Retailers, keen to be where their customers are, began setting up shop in the suburbs. This left main streets and downtowns across the country competing with the suburban shopping centers for customers and dollars. How could cities compete with suburban shopping centers, complete with easy highway access and cheap, plentiful parking? One man had an idea, a man responsible for the shopping malls themselves. Victor Gruen. Victor Gruen was an Austrian-born architect who moved to the United States to practice near the onset of World War II. His best-known work is Southdale Mall in Edina, Minnesota, built in 1956. Now, it seems sort of strange for an architect's best work to be a mall, but Southdale was the first indoor mall in the United States. Gruen did more than just design the building, he really invented the entire concept of shopping malls that we know today. He went on to design over 50 shopping malls in the United States.
Inventing the shopping mall would have been enough to cement his legacy as one of the most influential architects of his time, but he didn't stop there. He believes some of the principles that made his shopping malls a success would help urban downtowns.
He designed an influential plan for downtown Fort Worth, Texas that included new highways leading directly to convenient parking garages surrounding a massive pedestrian zone. Within the zone, streets and shops would mimic the look and feel of a shopping mall. The plan proved too ambitious for Fort Worth to implement, but it caught the eye of city leaders in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Just like Fresno and other cities, Kalamazoo's downtown wasn't thriving, and city leaders were looking for a drastic change. They asked Gruen to propose a design, and he designed something similar in scope to his Fort Worth plan. Kalamazoo leaders said, "Yeah, that sounds great, but how about we leave out the costly highways and parking structures and just pedestrianize one street?" Gruen objected, believing that simply pedestrianizing a street wouldn't be enough to ensure success. Kalamazoo's mall did succeed anyway, at first. Businesses reported sales increases, and the story of revitalization spread like wildfire. Life magazine did a piece, and about 300 other stories were published about Kalamazoo's mall. It seemed like the perfect idea. All cities had to do was redesign their main streets for pedestrians, land that they already owned. It was cheap and easy as far as revitalization schemes went. Perfect for small and medium-sized cities. In fact, Victor Gruen, along with landscape architect Garrett Ekbo, designed the next pedestrian mall in Fresno, California. That's right, Fresno was at the leading edge of this new trend. Nearly 140 pedestrian malls were built across the United States from 1959 to 1984. By the 1980s, it became clear that building a pedestrian mall would not be enough for downtowns to compete with suburban shopping malls. Cities that built them began to remove them and restore traffic. Today, only about 35% of pedestrian malls remain. Some are actually quite successful. Malls in Denver, Colorado, Iowa City, Iowa, and Charlottesville, Virginia are still centerpieces of their downtown. On the other hand, some malls are largely desolate and lined with empty storefronts, like this one in Redding, California. Back in Fresno, the pedestrian mall designed by Ekbo and Gruen was gorgeous. It was widely regarded as one of the most beautiful of all the pedestrian malls designed in mid-century America. It featured plentiful shade trees, plenty of seating, and water features. The mall served as an outdoor art museum as well. The sculptures were of particularly high quality. The focal point was a sculpture by Renoir. In Fresno, you can literally touch or even climb a sculpture by Renoir.
Unfortunately, despite its iconic design, the pedestrian mall did not succeed in revitalizing downtown Fresno. City leaders and community members spent decades stymied by inaction. On one side, downtown property owners wanted to remove the mall, and on the other side, preservationists wanted it to stay.
The mall was also beginning to show serious signs of wear, as the city didn't have adequate funds to maintain it at a high level. All parties agreed that something needed to be done. After decades of stasis and stagnation, things started looking up for Fresno in about 2002. That was when they built a minor league ballpark. Fresno Mall connects directly to the park. The park also served as an anchor in Fresno's ongoing efforts at downtown revitalization, and after the ballpark opened, the city felt like it finally had some momentum. Businesses began reopening and the city began planning a new downtown railway station for the California High-Speed Rail project. City leaders, particularly former Mayor Ashley Swearingen, decided that the time had come to do something about that mall, remove it and restore traffic. In 2013, the city applied for and won a federal Tiger Transportation grant for $16 million to remove the mall. The city ponied up $4 million to cover the rest of the cost for the estimated $20 million project, and the fate of the mall was more or less sealed. Preservationists attempted to halt the project, but in January 2016, a judge denied a motion that would have created a barrier for the project. And that brings us back to the groundbreaking on March 3, 2016.
The mayor and other city leaders see removing the pedestrian mall as fixing the mistake made back in the 1960s. If the pedestrian mall didn't succeed in revitalizing downtown, why keep it? It could be holding back Fresno's newfound momentum.
But no doubt city leaders back in September 1, 1964 were sure they were doing the right thing when they built the mall. They were using an innovative model for revitalization that had been proven successful in Kalamazoo, hired the same architect, built a world-class piece of urban space, filled it with some of the most impressive collections of public art in the United States. How could this thing fail? But of course, back in 1964, there were signs that it wouldn't work out. Some business owners at the time took out a full-page ad in the local newspaper urging leaders not to do it. They worried it would hurt business and take the city 40 years to realize their mistake and remove it. But there may be signs that the decision to remove the mall isn't the right call. First of all, the report the city used to justify the removal of the mall underestimated the remaining number of pedestrian malls, as well as the number one would consider successful.
Also, Sacramento, a city 170 miles north of Fresno, and where I happen to be standing right now, removed its pedestrian mall back in 2011. It didn't help revitalize this one-time Main Street, and business here is still largely stagnant.
There was a recent call in the local newspaper to bring back the pedestrian mall in Sacramento. Across the United States, cities are adding pedestrian space, not removing it. Times Square in New York is a notable example. Could Fresno be removing what could be one of the best pedestrian spaces of the future? The point here is that even with the best information planners and city leaders can gather, it can be impossible to predict the future. Don't take it for granted that a mayor or city council know for sure what will happen when something is built or a law is passed. Nobody knows for sure. These two events, separated by over 50 years, just illustrates that no matter how technology advances or how we learn from history, we can never be 100% sure what will work. We have to make our best guess and hope for the best. For Fresno's sake, I hope they made the right choice.